You ever look around and wonder why some people just seem to build wealth so easily, while the rest of us are working incredibly hard but just staying stuck? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into the idea that the real secret isn't some hot stock tip or a get-rich-quick scheme. Nope, it's the software running inside your own head. And the best part is, you can actually rewrite the code. This is the question, isn't it? The one that just trips so many of us up. I mean, we follow all the standard advice. Get a good education, find a secure job, work your tail off. But what if that advice is missing the most critical piece of the puzzle? What if the problem isn't your work ethic at all, but something way deeper, your financial mindset? And this quote from Robert Kiyosaki just gets right to the heart of it. Think about it. Where did you really learn about money? For most of us, it wasn't in a classroom. It was at the dinner table. We just soaked up our parents' beliefs and habits, their fears, their ambitions, usually without even realizing it. And that's exactly why the journey to wealth doesn't start with a spreadsheet. It starts with understanding our own psychological wiring. So what this really means is that if you're struggling with money, the real issue might not be your job or the economy. You can think of those as just the symptoms. The root cause, well, that's often your mindset, that internal programming that's running your entire financial life. Okay, so here's the fundamental shift you have to make. It is so easy to blame your boss for not paying you enough or to blame the market for a bad trade, but according to Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, that's a total trap. The real journey to wealth begins with looking inward. The second you realize that you are the one variable you can actually control, that's when you get all the power back. To really get this, let's look at two completely different ways of thinking about money. Kiyosaki breaks this down perfectly through the lessons he learned from his two dads. One he called his rich dad and the other his poor dad. On one side, you've got the poor dad mindset. This is the path most of us are taught, right? Study hard, get a safe job, and work for your money. It's a life spent chasing a paycheck. But then there's the rich dad mindset, which just flips that whole script upside down. It says, learn how money works so you can make your money work for you. It's a really profound difference in perspective. You know, Kiyosaki learned this lesson in a really powerful way. When he was a kid, his rich dad had him working for just 10 cents an hour. I mean, can you imagine? Of course, he got angry and wanted to quit. But that's exactly when the lesson clicked. Life is always going to push you around. Most people just let it happen. But the wealthy, they use that push as a reason to think differently and find a better way. So, if we're going to change our thinking, we first have to face the things inside us that are holding us back. Let's call them what they are. They're like inner dragons that we all have to confront. The first, and honestly the biggest dragon, is just plain old fear. It's the fear of not having enough money that makes people cling to a job they hate, just hoping that the next paycheck will finally make that anxiety go away. But it never does it? The fear always comes back, and it keeps them trapped in a cycle of working for security instead of for freedom. Does that sound at all familiar? Now, the second dragon is often called greed, but really, it's just desire that's been left unchecked. You know how it is. A little extra money comes in, and suddenly desire just kicks into high gear. You start seeing a new car, a fancy vacation, a bigger house, and instead of thinking logically about how to use that money, we react emotionally, and we end up buying liabilities that we mistake for assets. And the third dragon, this is the one that completely paralyzes our ambition. The fear of criticism. We don't take a risk on that new business idea, or we don't set a crazy high financial goal because we're terrified of what our friends or family will think if we fail. As Napoleon Hill pointed out, this fear is often way stronger than our actual desire for success. So, how do you know if these dragons are running your life? All right, it's time for a quick self-check. Do you find yourself blaming your boss for your problems? Do you get furious after a losing trade, feeling like a victim? Or maybe you've let a well-meaning relative talk you out of a huge idea just because they thought it was too risky. These are all major warning signs. Okay, so we've identified the dragons. Now, how in the world do we fight them? Well, we build mental armor. This means we have to consciously develop the mindset and the tools to overcome these internal barriers for good. The very first piece of our armor comes from that classic book, Think and Grow Rich. And it's not just a casual wish for more money. It's what's called a burning desire, a white-hot obsession that fuels your passion and convinces you, deep down in your bones, that you will achieve your goal. This, right here, is the starting point of all great achievement. And the best part is, Napoleon Hill didn't just leave it as some vague idea. He gave us a 6-step formula to turn that desire into actual reality. Now, this isn't just about setting goals. It's a process of programming your subconscious mind for success. It forces you to get crystal clear on exactly what you want, what you're willing to give in return for it, and the date you'll have it by. Those final steps, writing it down and reading it out loud every day, that's all about embedding that goal so deeply in your mind that it becomes basically an inevitable outcome. The second piece of armor is radical self-awareness. As trading expert Bennett McDowell puts it, understanding your own psychology is an absolute prerequisite for financial mastery. You have to be willing to look in the mirror and be really honest about what you see. Now, this isn't about judging yourself, not at all. The concept of yin and yang is a brilliant way to think about this. The goal isn't to get rid of your weaknesses. It's to create a harmonious balance. Your weaknesses and your strengths, they coexist, and by understanding both, you can actually use them together to improve your performance. And the final piece of our mental armor is unshakable belief. But not in some magic pill, no, it's belief in your plan. So many people think some fancy system is what matters, but as McDowell says, you have to get to a point where you believe with your whole heart and soul that having a sound money management plan is absolutely essential to your success. Okay, theory is great, but what can you do like right now? We've talked about mindset, we've talked about dragons and armor. Now let's turn all of that into your very first concrete step forward. You know, sometimes the motivation to change comes from pain. This quote here is from a trader who lost $25,000 on a single trade because he let his emotions take over. That devastating blow is what finally forced him to learn the lesson of risk control. As he puts it, tuition at the University of the Markets can be really, really expensive. The goal here is to learn from his painful lesson so you don't have to pay that tuition yourself. So your first step is to take inventory. What are your current strengths? Maybe you have strong analytic skills or great attention to detail. And what about your weaknesses? Is it a lack of a plan? Do you trade emotionally? You have to be brutally honest with yourself here. This self-analysis is the foundation of your entire plan. And this brings us right back to our core idea, just perfectly summarized here by Robert Kiyosaki. The wealth that you build in the real world is simply a reflection of the clarity and the conviction that you build in your mind first. Money is just an idea. If you want more of it, you start by changing your thinking. Because ultimately, the beliefs that were passed down to you, the fears that hold you back, the criticisms you worry about, they're all just stories, and you have the power to write a brand new one. So the only question left is this: what story will you choose to believe?